Welcome to Stormwater Drainage Solutions. In this video, we're going to be installing some drainage for a future pool and pool deck. So basically what we have going on here is we have a downspout that's dumping out water here. There's going to eventually be concrete all around that. Now, this point here where that 20-inch polylock basin sits is a low point, and we have a ton of water that comes down the property and the hill, and it floods that area, and then it makes its way through here where we have our line drawn for where our pipe work is going to lay, and that water washes through this entire area. Now, eventually this is going to be a pool and a pool deck that's going to surround this porch enclosure here. So the client obviously does not want all this water that's going to be washing through that area going over the pool and the pool deck. So what we're going to do is we're going to install this 20-inch polylock basin. We're going to grab that downspout so that we can pipe that underground to that basin, and then we're going to be running a 6-inch PVC main line off of that basin, and we're going to run it all the way to the other side of the property. That way we can channel all of this water underneath the ground instead of it flowing on top of the ground and over the future pool deck. On this particular install, the reason why we decided to go with PVC is because it is a smooth interior pipe, and where we have a little bit of slope to work with, we don't have a whole lot. So whenever you're in a situation where you need to drain a pipe out using gravity, but you don't have a whole lot of slope to work with, only a little bit, a smooth interior pipe is going to be far superior in that situation than a corrugated pipe. Now, obviously, this client didn't want to use a sump pump, and neither did I. Anytime that I can drain a system out without a pump, I always do so, because whenever you add a sump pump to a drainage system, all you are doing is adding a mechanical piece of equipment that could fail and have potential problems in the future, not to mention it runs off of electricity. If you lose power during a storm and you don't have a backup generator or a Generac, anything like that, then obviously you're not moving water if the pump is not moving water. So as you can see here, we already have our downspout line tied in to our polylock basin. We're using 4-inch PVC on that downspout line. That particular downspout gives off a tremendous amount of water because not only is it picking up the porch roof, but it's also picking up the second story roof that dumps down into that gutter trough. So we're going to be running a 6-inch main line off of here because of the amount of water that the system is going to have to carry. Remember, when this downspout ties into that polylock basin, we also have a bunch of water that's going to be getting collected on a surface level in that polylock basin. So we want to make sure that this system can handle heavy storms and the amount of bulk water that's going to be going into it. So that's why we also chose to use a 6-inch main line here to then discharge this system. Whenever you're installing PVC pipe for a drainage system, you always want to make sure that you use your primer before you use your solvent cement to weld the two pieces of plastic together. Now, the reason why the primer is important is because it cleans off any residue, oils from the skin, or dirt that may have gotten on the pipe. So this gives the pipe a clean, smooth area for your solvent cement to then do its job and start to melt that plastic down. The primer also kind of preps it, and it begins to help soften it for that solvent cement to really be able to then melt it. Because essentially you're not gluing the two pieces of plastic together. What you're doing is the solvents are melting that plastic, and as it melts and you push the spigot into the bell end or the fitting, whatever you're gluing together, those two pieces of plastic then fuse together as the plastic dries and the solvent evaporates. The other thing that I want to clarify too in this video, just in case if you don't catch it, this is all solid pipe. So there's no holes in this pipe. It's not a perforated pipe. It's not for a French drain. We have already caught the water with the downspout, and we are going to be catching the water with the 20-inch polylock basin. So after you catch the water, you want to contain it and move it out. The best way to do this is with a solid line. If you use a perforated pipe on catch basins, downspouts, channel drains, basically any other drain than a French drain, what will ultimately happen is the line will definitely function. It will move water. Water is going to travel through it. But after the rain starts to slow down and stop, the system will work in reverse. That perforated pipe will then begin to leach water out into the ground, and it will put more water into the ground, and it will create a soggy area and other problems. So the only time you want to use perforated pipe is when you're building a French drain. No other time. You can see the men here are measuring out our 6-inch pipe to be able to cut it. You always want to take multiple measurements before you make your cuts, because the last thing you want to do is make a cut that's wrong and then you're just wasting materials. At the end of the day, PVC is more expensive than corrugated pipe, so you always want to make sure that you're not wasting pipe and have minimal scrap at the end. The less scrap pipe that you end up with at the end, the better. So you want to be strategic whenever you're laying PVC pipe. You can also use different methods to cut this pipe. Our method of choice is going to be a sawzall. We just use a reciprocating saw and we cut right through it. We've gotten really efficient at this, really fast at doing this, and we make nice straight cuts because we've been doing this a long time. You can also use a chop saw to get nice straight cuts. Granted, a chop saw produces a lot more plastic dust compared to a reciprocating saw from what we've noticed. And you can also use a hacksaw. That's going to be the old school method. Now a hacksaw, if you're laying a bunch of pipe and you're using a hacksaw, you're going to be there for a little while and your arm is going to get tired. So be prepared if you're using a hacksaw. So I would recommend either a chop saw or a reciprocating saw. You can also use a circular saw as well. For larger pipe, it's kind of annoying because you have to rotate the pipe as you're cutting with the circular saw. So the cut could be off a little bit, but you can get away with using a circular saw if that's all you have as a DIYer. Now, as you can see, we are priming and solvent welding our 45-degree fitting onto our 6-inch main here because we need to make this turn. So basically, we are following the contour of the land. It's hard to tell with the video, and obviously I didn't get down close and personal with the grade so you could see it, but the land slopes in the direction that we are laying the pipe. The reason you want to do this, especially if you have minimal slope to work with, is you always want to try to follow the contour of the grade of the land. That way that pipe can drain out completely. Because even though there wasn't a whole lot of fall to work with on this job, we still managed to get 1% fall once the pipe dropped here at this 45. So basically we had to run it pretty flat through that entire run. And then once we got to that 45 and we had more fall to work with, then we could drop the pipe ever so slightly. We got our 1%, and that is going to allow that entire line to then drain out. The discharge end to this system is going to be a percolation tee. So the soil that we're working in here is very sandy and it drains very, very well. The water just penetrates right through it and goes down into the ground. So a percolation tee is going to be one of the best methods to drain this entire system out because that water will be able to leach down into the ground very easily at the end there. So that will allow the line to dry out completely. Now, I didn't get video of this particular percolation tee being installed, but we have other videos showing how we do this. And I'll go ahead and I'll link one of those videos in the description below. So if you're interested in how we build them, you will see. But basically, the concept is it's a tee that you use upright and your pipe goes in the top portion of the tee, so water will be able to drain down into the ground, but it will also be able to come out of the top on very heavy rains. Now, on our percolation tees, we like to put a little bit of pipe in the bottom, and we put geotextile fabric under there to keep the soil from getting into the pipe and also migrating with the stone, because we do put a little bit of stone at the bottom. The reason we put the stone is so it helps break up the water, so the water is not just flushing and washing away sediment. So it just kind of helps when there's an influx of water so that it's not flowing in there so aggressively and eroding it out. All right, guys, well, I think that just about does it for this install. We pretty much are all cleaned up, and we have our percolation tee finished, and we put a 6-inch pop-up emitter on there. If you need drainage in the Tampa Bay area, give us a call at 813-614-3456. Stormwater Drainage Solutions has you covered. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. It supports us and supports the channel.